This last part, we're going to finish up talking about the various orders of mammals. And the first one we're going to talk about are the gnawing mammals, or the order Rodentia. I think you recognize the Rodentia, rodent, as being the group of mammals that we are familiar with, mice, rats, etc. The one on the right here is called a calabara, which is just a large rodent of the same sort of type as these others. The rodents are small gnawing mammals. There are more rodents than any other type of mammal, any other order of mammals. As I said, there's the mouse and the rat, which is a larger, more aggressive than the mouse. And the rat is actually quite important in the history of mankind because the rats are the source of many of the plague-like diseases that we've had to deal with over the years. And the single most important thing to prevent those kind of diseases was cleaning up the environment such that rats did not have a place to flourish. Plague, for example, the Black Plague that killed over a third of the people in Europe during the Middle Ages, the source of that plague was a bacteria known as Yersinia pestis. Yersinia pestis was spread by the bite of a flea, and these fleas would get the Yersinia pestis from the rat, and they would transfer it to humans through these flea bites. And then flea bites would bite another rat, and the rat would become infected, and it would go back and forth. The plague was a horrible disease at the time, and actually some countries are still keeping plague as a possible biological agent to use in warfare in the future. The calabara, as I've shown you is the picture here, is the largest of the rodents and can get quite large, 50, 60 pounds in some cases. The squirrel is another gnawing mammal or rodent. The flying squirrel, the ones that are called flying squirrels, have a web-like structure between their arms and legs, but they don't really fly the way birds fly. They, what I call, fall with grace. I took that term from Buzz Lightyear in the first Toy Story when Woody kept bothering Buzz Lightyear saying, "You don't actually fly." And he says, "No, I fall with grace." And here we have a woodchuck, which is a burrowing type rodent, and the gopher, which is another burrowing type rodent that's found primarily in the Midwest and West. Beavers are the largest of the rodents in the United States, and they're known obviously for building complex structures. We call them dams. It's actually their home. And then the last of these that I'll mention is the porcupine. The porcupine is primarily known for its unique defense, which is these long spines which it has on its back. The flying lemurs, the order is Dermoptera. These are nocturnal animals that fly. And then there are the hare-like animals, hare being H-A-R-E, like rabbits. These are the Lagomorphia. The rabbit they're also called lagomorphs. The rabbit's the one we know the best, and its only defense is its keen senses and its speed. And actually the rabbit is not particularly fast, but one of the things that rabbits are good at is changing direction. And you'll see when a wolf or coyote is chasing a rabbit, the rabbit zigzags back and forth. It's very hard for the predator to make those changes. The hare, which is not a rabbit, it's larger than a rabbit, has many of the characteristics of a rabbit, but it's larger and gets around pretty much the same way. Something called a pika, which I don't think I could find a picture of. It's the smallest of these lagomorphs. And then the hyrax. The hyrax is a very interesting single animal making up a single order, Hyracosia. The hyrax is what we call, from the Bible, the coney. If you remember in the, I think it's the book of Proverbs, it talks about the conies and the rocks. And this hyrax is exactly what he's talking about when he talks about the coney. The odd-toed or odd-hoofed mammals, the order is Pterodactyla. They have hooves, which are essentially thick nails. They are ungulates, which means that they are swift runners but herbivores. And the largest of these is known as a rhinoceros. And we have a picture of a rhinoceros here. And the rhinoceros, because of its bulk and its inability and its exposure to heat, will get into the dirt and mud and use that to cool itself off. Is another odd-toed hoofed animal. The horse is an odd-toed hoofed animal. The horse is useful in the fact that it can be domesticated. It will follow orders, and it can do many. It's very powerful, very fast, and it can do many things. The Greek mythology said that the horse was the gift that Athena gave to mankind, and I think she won some kind of prize for doing that. She had a contest against another god whose name escapes me, and the horse was the gift that Athena gave to mankind. The zebra is essentially very similar to the horse. It's obviously striped. The problem with the zebra is it can't be domesticated. Everything that's good about a horse is necessary that it is domesticated. The zebra has all the same features but cannot be domesticated and therefore is not useful. The donkey is another variation on the horse. The donkey has many of the aspects of horses. It's not as fast, but in some ways it's more useful because it is very good in terms of being able to, you can pack it with a lot of material without it breaking down for its size. Mules are a cross between a donkey and a horse. Mules are not considered a separate species because the mules are always infertile. And one of the definitions of a species is they have to be able to mate and produce fertile offspring. If their offspring are not fertile, then the produced offspring are not considered species. The even-toed hoofed animals, the order Artiodactyla, are ruminant animals, which means that they chew the cud. They have a very unique and special way that their digestive system works. They're called, another group in this group is called the bovids. These are sheep and other ruminant animals that are related to sheep that are important for both food and clothing. The deer and the camel are also even-hoofed, and the deer is known because of its antlers rather than horns. The camel is primarily built to survive the desert. The camel is another extremely useful animal, particularly in the desert, because it can survive a great deal of time, and you can use it like a horse, but you can use it in the desert, whereas a horse does not do well in the desert. What's the difference between horns and antlers? A horn is a hollow structure that is permanent and is made up of compressed hair. Whereas an antler is a solid extension of the bone that is shed annually. So horns are not bone, they're hair that's compressed, and they are permanent extensions, whereas the antler is extension of bone, but the antler is shed on a regular basis. The antlers, because they're extensions of bone, are covered with a skin-like material, and this is called velvet. Cows and other ruminant animals have a different kind of digestive tract, and they break down cellulose by means of fermentation. And we'll talk about fermentation in another context. But in the colon, there's an area where this fermentation occurs. This area is called the cecum, which are side pockets in the colon of these animals where this fermentation, and this fermentation is important because it's where the cellulose is broken down. That they eat grass and the cellulose is broken down and sugar is then extracted and the animal lives on that energy. The rumen is the large part of the stomach, and what happens is they eat grass or whatever, they swallow it, and then they cough up small balls of food that are formed in the rumen, and coughing this up, they chew it again, and then they swallow it again. They keep doing that over and over, and eventually it all passes through. Lastly, we'll talk about the carnivora, or the flesh eaters. Carnivores are meat eaters. Bears are almost always carnivores, but they're really omnivores because they do eat berries and other things as well. The grizzly bear is well known because it's the largest bear. It's also extremely dangerous. Another extremely large bear is pictured here, the polar bear, which lives in cold environments and is also considered very dangerous. Wolves are another group of flesh eaters. They are the canines. They run in packs and they kill anything they want in terms of getting food. The weasel group has a lot of very dangerous animals in them. The weasel group includes wolverines, which are fierce, relentless hunters, and they can kill animals that are. A 60-pound wolverine has been known to bring down a 400 or 500-pound bear before, if it gets the advantage. The other flesh eaters include the cat family, which are tigers and lions, which we've all heard of. But domestic cats are also flesh eaters, and they are extremely efficient hunters, which is why if you have a cat around, you generally don't have a problem with mice. The seal, which is an aquatic carnivore, as well as the walrus, which is pictured here, both are carnivores and both can be dangerous. The walrus has tusks much like an elephant does, and they also represent elongated upper incisors. They actually use those when they fight with each other. There are some extinct animals. Extinct means that they're no longer found on the earth. For example, the saber-toothed tiger, the woolly mammoth, the glyptodont, which there's a picture of a glyptodont in your book. I didn't put a picture on the slide here. And then the iridiocryptomum. There are some species that are called endangered. What does that mean? An endangered species is a species that still exists, but is in danger of extinction because its numbers are very low. And the one that's most famous is the spotted owl because it was related to a lot of ecological protests and also laws that were given to prevent certain things from being done because it put the spotted owl at risk.